Welcome to Classics You Slept Through. This is the book podcast where we read and discuss classic books. I'm your host, Kyle Davis, along with a girl who has never killed a bull, to my knowledge, my sister, Meredith. How's it going, Mer?
It's good.
You have never killed a bull, correct?
No.
Run
No,
with them?
remember when I stopped eating red meat fully because I just thought cows were too cute?
Yeah,
Couldn't do it.
yeah. I
Back in the
like
day.
I like cow meat. It's very good. Well, hey, tonight we are starting a new book, and this is kind of an interesting one. Is this the first time we've done? I guess this is an anthology. What do you call this? It's an anthology, right?
It's a collection.
Collection of short stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, first time we've done a collection of short stories. We did do a couple of Charles Dickens short stories for a Christmas stream one year.
We did.
R.I.P. to Arpan.
Yeah.
That was fun. But tonight we are starting Men Without Women, and I swear, I promise I will do my best not to call it Men Without Hats.
What?
I've called it that so many times in my mind.
How was that a mistake?
It's Men Without Hats, the band, the 80s, safety dance.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Now I remember.
Yeah, so that gets stuck in my head. But we are doing Men Without Women by Ernest Hemingway. So this is one of the bigger named authors we've done. I mean, we've done Jane Austen, and who else big?
Bram Stoker.
Yeah, he only wrote 2 books, though. It's not like Hemingway that's...
But I feel like most people know. If you say Bram Stoker, people would say Bram Stoker. He does different movies, probably. Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah.
People would if you said his name, they would say Dracula. So
Well, sure, because that's the only thing he's written, basically.
I mean, Kate Chopin is a big name.
I had never heard of her.
Okay, so this is a universally known writer.
Yes, this is one where you actually would have studied them in school, right?
Yeah, and you either liked it or you did not.
I guess Jack London for Call of the Wild. That's a name, but very specific genre.
It's a pretty common book to do in school too.
Right.
Hence why you slept through it. Potentially.
Exactly. And I think Hemingway, he also wrote The Pearl, correct?
No.
No?
You said this last time.
Did I?
And we looked it up.
Who wrote that?
I'm gonna look it up again.
He wrote Old Man and the Sea, right?
Yes.
I'm trying to think of other things that that we actually studied in school by Hemingway.
Steinbeck is the Pearl.
Steinbeck is the Pearl. Okay, the other big author name.
Yeah.
I knew it was something. But Hemingway is Old Man and the Sea.
He is.
Correct. Okay. So that is a legit book that I did study in high school, that I did sleep through and do not remember.
It's so short. It must
Almost.
have been like a power nap.
Is it?
It's so short.
There was like, well, I don't know, maybe that was the Pearl. It was like the guy in the boat with the kid or something, and the 2 people in the boat. Or is that the Pearl?
I haven't read The Pearl. I haven't. I love East of Eden, Steinbeck, and Of Mice and Men, and but I have not read The Pearl.
The Pearl is set in... All I remember is set in Venezuela.
In the sea.
And it's about pearl diving in Venezuela.
Okay, well then that's The Pearl.
That's right. But Old Man in the Sea is like, it's not just the old man, it's a kid in the boat too, right?
No.
No? It's just a man in the boat?
There is a kid in the beginning of the story
Oh, okay.
who is there, and he's also a character, but the old man is out on the sea alone.
Oh, okay, there you go. I could not have told you that. Well, that's the extent of my Hemingway knowledge, everyone. So this is fun that we're studying a big author today. And so we are doing Men Without Women. I know nothing about the book and knew nothing about the book coming in. Do you want to say anything in general about the book before we dive into the stories that we read for this session?
I think that so Hills Like White Elephants, I think, is one of his most famous short stories, and it's in this book, and it's in this particular episode.
It is.
The Undefeated I've also read, which is also in this particular episode. And Hemingway's been anthologized so much that his stories pop up here and there and everywhere. And so I don't know how often I've read from front to back just the anthology from which the stories came,
Okay.
um, and read them all as a collection.
Right.
Um, but Hemingway is one of those authors that when I was young, I was like, I love to read. What should I read? Well, I should read the classics because they're classic for a reason, and I'll start there. And Hemingway was one of those authors. And people have really mixed feelings about Hemingway, but when I was young, I was captivated by it. And they were such quick reads. And I have a lot of notes and a lot to say, but
Excellent.
I'm still captivated. So
Well,
we'll see
good.
how you
You'll
feel.
definitely have the deeper analysis on these, I think.
Well, I don't know how deep, but
Well, we'll see. So for this episode, we read 4 stories. We read The Undefeated. We read In Another Country, Hills Like
mhm,
White Elephants, and The Killers. So we're going to go through those. The Undefeated is pretty long comparatively. The other 3 are fairly short. You can read in about 5 minutes, honestly.
yeah,
So
they're real
if you
short.
haven't read these, I recommend picking this up. Public domain. It's out there for free. You can check out Gutenberg.org, and they are very quick reads. So, but anyway, let's get into it. So the first story the one I read, the first story we
Hmm.
did was called The Undefeated. And it's a little bit longer tale, and it centers around a guy named Manuel Garcia, and he is a aging bullfighter, and he's just recovered from an injury in one of his last fights, and so he goes to the bullfight agent, I guess, the guy that runs the bullfights.
The promoter, yeah.
Yeah, begging for a chance to get back into it.
Yeah.
And the story goes through his sort of journey, setting up his bullfight, and then getting into it. I guess if we go through it a little bit, it starts out with a scene of him arriving to this manager's office and kind of
Katana.
begging, yeah, kind of begging for a chance and for a job. And it's, he negotiates the rate, and it's interesting because the guy was thinking he would offer him
Hmm.
500 pesetas, but he was willing to take 250. So they settle on
Yeah.
just a mere 300. He negotiates to hire his own picadors, or at least one. He has to have at least one that he can trust. And so once they've sort of agreed on letting him fight, and it's going to be in a night fight the next night, he goes out to a bar and he meets his buddy
Zorito.
Zorito, who's also an aging picador, and he tries to talk him out of fighting, but Manuel gets him to agree to pick for him. And then we get into the actual fight. So then the second half of the story is the bullfight progressing.
Yeah.
And
Can we stop and talk about the beginning
yeah,
though,
yeah,
real
yeah.
quick? Because Manolo or Manuel, they call him Manolo in the book, he comes to see Ratana and he wants to fight. And you said he's begging and he is desperate, but he tries not to let on, but Ratana knows, and there's some sort of
But he's
history
proud.
with them. Yeah, he's real proud. But the first thing you see is this taxidermied bull on the wall that killed his brother.
Right,
And the brother's nickname was the Promising One, and he's dead
right.
by a bull named Mariposa, which means butterfly. It's like, what? Uh, so I feel like from the beginning, you know that nothing is going to go well, or at least you get this hint. But he and Ratana have this history where Ratana is doing this for like old time's sake, or he was happy to see him and wanted to like have that feeling of what it used to be like, but those times are gone and that feeling flits by. And he's like, I was
Right,
gonna, like you said, I was gonna offer him 500, but then I said 250, and we agreed on
right.
300. um and
Because
the
it even
night fights
says,
are
like,
not
Ratana doesn't
popular.
even know why 250 came out of his mouth when he
Yeah,
says it. Um,
there's so much like undercurrent that's happening here. And even even when he goes into the cafe, the the waiters are asking him like, "Oh, are you?" He's like, "Oh, I'm in the fight." And they're like, "Oh, are you like, basically like, are you one of the clowns?" They don't
Yeah.
know him.
Right.
So I don't know how long he's been away. He's been in the hospital, but I didn't get the feeling like it'd been years and years that he'd been gone. I think that you just go in and out of fame that quickly
Yeah.
in this life,
Yeah. Well,
which
it really reminded me of. I mean, you can think of any kind of sports movie. Like, have you seen Any Given Sunday?
no.
Oh, it's great, great movie.
I mean, I've
Anyway,
seen the famous clips from it.
right. But I mean, it revolves around the same idea, like an aging football player being replaced and trying to reclaim the glory. Or have you seen For the Love of the Game? Kevin Costner, baseball.
Um, Bull Durham? No, that's not like eight. Well, no, Kevin Costner's in Bull Durham.
I mean, you could use Bull Durham even. I mean, Kevin Costner and baseball, they're all the same movie. But For the Love of the Game is Kevin Costner's a pitcher pitching one last game before retirement, before he goes out. And Bull Durham's the same thing, right? Kevin Costner's a down on his luck aging ball player who's playing in the minors, helping a young guy come up. So it's all that idea of the glory days are behind you, and people have forgotten you, and you're trying to recapture that one last shot at glory, and that's what Manolo's trying to do here, right?
That comparison to the Bull Durham character, who's who's really good and helps others be really good and helps other people shine. Not that Manolo helps other people shine, but I got the feeling that he never made it to the majors in the same way
Right,
that Kevin Costner never made it. He got really
right.
close and
He
he
got the
drew a
AAA
crowd.
ball and then just never got there. Yeah,
Yeah. But like his brother, the promising one, like perhaps, and as we get into it, we'll see that um one of the other uh I don't think it's another picador. It's another like lesser bullfighter.
it's so
He's
it's so
great.
yeah. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
So like I did a little bit of you know Wikipedia research on bullfighting, and as I was reading this, if you go through like what a bullfight is, Hemingway does an amazing job laying it all out. Like you can,
Yeah.
like I knew it as I'm reading it, right? So basically, yeah, it happens in the scene in the cafe too when he's before Zorito comes up when the
Hmm.
waiters are talking to him. He says, what are you doing tomorrow? I'm fighting, and like you said, he said, are you fighting in the comedic portion, right? And they call it the
The
Charlie
Charlie
Chaplins,
Chaplin.
right?
Yeah.
He says, no, I'm fighting in the ordinary, and he says, oh, I thought they were gonna have Chavez and Hernandez. He's like, no, it's me and one of those guys. He's like, which one? Well, I think it's Hernandez. So him and Hernandez, so two bullfighters go in together,
Hmm.
kind of like a team, and so Hernandez is more of a young up and comer. I think they say he's 19 or something in
Hmm.
it. And Manolo's obviously like in his 30s, somewhere in there. He's an older guy, kind of past his prime.
Terribly old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
But when
definitely.
you're a if when you do a physical thing like that, I mean, you work out, I work out, but we don't have to put our bodies on the line for
No,
our workout or for our job.
no, goodness
And
no.
when you get up to being 30s and 40s, your body is like, now, how about this hurts? How
Yeah,
about that
it
hurts?
just
And it's not
doesn't
serious
do it the
yet,
same. Yeah,
but it is serious if you have to perform at a peak or if
right,
someone else is going to slam their body into your body at an
right,
odd angle. So,
exactly. Yeah, you just can't do it anymore. Like contact sports are out for me. Like I just
oh God.
can't play contact sport anymore. I'm old now. Like it doesn't work. So yeah, all you young listeners, enjoy your youth while you can, because it does go away, unfortunately. But yeah, so we're in the cafe and he's talking, and then Zorito finally comes up, and Zorito is a picador, and I found it fascinating the different roles in
Mm,
in the bullfight and all the things they do. So Zorito's job is, we'll get to it in the bullfight, but basically the bullfight is broken down into three very ritualistic sections. and the picadors run around in the first section. So these guys are dudes on horses with large lances, and what they do is they spear the bull and kind of weaken it a little bit while it's at its height of its strength and power. And so Zorito is an aging picador. He's kind of done with it. But for his friend Manolo, he finally agrees to pick one last time for him. And he tries to get Manolo to agree that, hey man, if you one last fight and then you're done and you're retiring. And I guess they wear a ponytail on their they don't cut their hairs. He's like, I'm gonna cut your ponytail myself, man. Like if you don't retire after this. Whereas Manolo's thinking, hey, this is my shot to get back into it. Like, no, man, if I do good, it's going to set me up for success in the future.
I really like this conversation. First of all, what I love that he's like, I'm just going to take a nap in the cafe. I'm just going to lay down and nap for a little bit. But Cerrito comes in and he talks to him, like you said, and he's like, no, I'm not going to do it for you. He's like, come on, man, do it. And his nickname is Manos Duros.
Right.
Like strong hands, durable hands, reliable, big hands. Yeah. And they have this agreement that he'll pick if he quits after this one.
Right.
And Manolo says, he doesn't say yes. He goes, I imagine he goes, sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. And Zorito asks him again. What does he say? He says like, no fooling, or like, are you serious? Can't remember exactly how he asked it. I'm trying to find it real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, he says, you got to quit. He says, no monkey business. You got to cut the coleta, the ponytail.
Yeah.
And he says, I won't have to quit. You watch me. I've got the stuff.
Yes. Wasn't serious. He wasn't serious about the quitting. He really believes. Like he says, if I get going, good.
If I get
going, see me when I get going. But Zorito, I feel like, not only knows him, but he strikes me as his role as a picador means whatever it is about you, you're not elegant enough, graceful enough. You don't have the finesse to be the matador, but you might know just as much or more about the choreography or the strategy of it. And therefore Zorito turns out to be really knowledgeable and can just...
Well, they're all a team. I mean, that's the kind of cool aspect of it, is they all work together as a team, right? Because if the picadors don't do their job in the first part of the bullfight, then the bull's not going to be set up for the matador to be able to do what he needs to do in his part of the fight.
And Manuel thinks he says it's all simple now because I've got the best picador there's ever been.
Yeah.
That's not ever been. That's alive right now. I've got the best one. And so now I'm clearly going to be able to do my thing.
Right.
And that's what he wants, because he says he doesn't come, Rotana's like, get a job, but I've got work, like, just get some work. And he's like, I don't want work.
Right.
I want to fight.
This is all I know how to do. Have you seen On the Waterfront?
No.
Oh my God. We need to do like a classic movie podcast now too. But I mean, it's amazing. I mean, Marlon Brando, amazing. But it's the same kind of idea. Like, all he knows how to do is he wanted to be a boxer, and he was going to be the best. And, he can't. He never made it. And God, it just feels, this whole book, like, melancholy, man. Like, it's oppressive, and you can feel it in every page. It's so good.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, they kind of come to an agreement where, Manolo says, hey, look, no, man, I won't have to quit. I'm going to do good. And Zorito kind of goes, all right. But he knows Manolo doesn't have it. But he's gonna be out there, like, to protect his friend and to make sure he's okay. But he knows he's going to make him quit after. So they both come to an understanding, if you will. So then we get into the fight itself. And I don't know, I found this just to be fascinating, and Hemingway's writing, like, I felt was energetic and it's exciting at the right points. There was definitely some repetition that I would read a couple paragraphs and I'd be like, wait, didn't I just read this paragraph? Because it's the same sort of thing. But anyway, so we'll get into it. So one thing to know about bullfights is, as I said, it's cut into 3 sections, right? Tercios, they call them. So, and they are demarcated by the sound of a bell. So once the bell rings, it's the next section starts. And I guess I didn't find it exactly, but I suppose the time limits are flexible, and whoever's running the fight, from the control booth or whatever, is deciding when it changes. Because we get into one portion where Manuel was doing something, like he put a really great move on or something, but they'd already switched the tercio, so like didn't count, basically, at the one point. So they all come out. You got the bullfighters, the matadors. You've got their entourage, who are going to be in the second section with these things called banderillos that are large, sharp sticks, and you've got the picadors that are the horse-mounted dudes with lances. Right? There's 4 of them. So in the first section, they bring the bull out, and the picadors are like stabbing the bull, and they get into the main scene where Zorito really gets the bull. Like, I loved the imagery of his huge hands just leaning in on the lance, getting it down into the shoulder muscle of the bull.
You love that image.
It's beautiful. It's well written. It's evocative,
well written.
and you could picture
it. It is well written. Yeah.
So the picador's job basically is to wear the bull down a little bit, so that when it finally gets to the matador, the point is to get its head hanging down, so that way the bull is the matador can control the bull by the horns. The other thing they're doing, the matadors during this section are basically studying the bull and kind of getting its tendencies, like figuring out, does this bull like to go left? Does it like to go right? How does it charge? What does it do when it's, faces off against the horses and things like that?
I thought it was really interesting the way Hemingway writes Manolo doing this, in that he tells us, the author's voice, the narrator's voice, tells us that he's noticing all of these things about the bull, that he goes, like you said, to the right, but at the same time, it said he didn't think about more than one move at a time, and and all of the things that he thinks about for himself, he boiled down to corto y derecha, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cut and right, I think. Corto means to cut.
Yeah. Or like sharp and straight or something, right?
And so all of this stuff is happening, I guess, subconsciously, or it's just his intuition, and he knows how to do this so well that all through this part of the book, like, he's doing these amazing things, and it's like the crowd isn't cheering for him, but if it had been someone else, the crowd would have loved it, like the other people are noticing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it said, the Ratana's man, the guy who came to like help out, to give him his swords and like be the handler, said that, if it was Belmonte out there, the crowd would be going crazy, but it's not Belmonte. It's this aging dude, even though he clearly is really good. Right.
Exactly. They're coming to see the name, not the actual performance. Plus, the other thing to point out is this is it's a night, it's a nocturnal, it's under electric lights, which are like new, and so they do that so that it's not as clear. Because I think the bull is like not a great bull. It's kind of, you know what I mean? It's not like the big, healthy, strong bull that you would have in the daytime. So the people aren't seeing like the best that they can even. So even if he does something amazing, it's going to kind of get washed out under the lights.
Yeah.
So the picadors do their thing. There's a moment when one of the other picadors doesn't get the bull in the right spot, and the bull ends up killing the horse. And when I was reading through this, basically horses died like far more frequently than bulls did bulls do in these bullfights.
Yeah.
They're still legal in a lot of parts of the world. I mean, Spain, it's a protected cultural heritage in Spain, so they still do live bullfights. So then it switches to the next section, and now these guys come out with these banderillos, these large spears, and it's sort of a dance, because these guys are like leaping into the air and stabbing these things into the bull, and like almost like it's acrobatic, right? Like they're swinging around on these poles and kicking their legs out into the air and doing all these fancy flips and jumps, and anyway, the crowd is cheering for them, and it's interesting because it says in the one point, Manuel, he's studying the bull this entire time. And he says to one of the kids, so they've like kids running these banderillos out to the guys that are doing this. And he says, tell him to drop the next ones to the right, because the bull always hooks right. So he's studying his opponent the entire time. Anyway, anything you want to say about this section?
the acrobaticness of it, when I was reading it, I'm like, maybe I just don't know what I'm reading, because this sounds insane.
Yeah.
Especially like the parts we'll get into when Manolo goes back in, when Manuel steals him, and it says he lifted up and cleared the horse, and I'm like, did he just like lift up, just, like,
Yeah,
that strong in the stirrups, or he gave it some kind of command that it came off the ground?
Yeah.
And the point is to be just shy of the horns on purpose, so
Right.
that it looks as dangerous as it is.
Yeah.
But also, I guess the whole point is to win over the beast or nature or whatever. Like, you should not be able to win.
Right.
And yet you just got
Yeah.
cleared of the horn. Anyway.
Well, there's different. In researching this, right, there's different types of bullfighting. Like, so this bullfighting is a specific kind that's like to the death, right, where the bull dies in the end. But they have non-killing bullfights where basically like a dude is just in the ring with the bull charges him, and he does these twists and arcs his back to get out of the way. And yeah, the closer you are to skim the bull, like the crowd loves it. And I was watching one from maybe from Venezuela, I can't remember. And the guy, the bull came so close, and the crowd is gasping. And then as he's leaving the ring, like he notices his shirt is shredded in the back. Like he just missed. The bull just missed him. Because they have these kind of, the shirts are a little flowy, so that it looks,
Sure.
But yeah, these guys are out there, and it was crazy watching the broadcast, because it was like watching. I mean, it's a sporting event. It's like they're bringing the players out, and the graphics are like, oh, here's their stats for the season, and they're like, okay, yeah, it's wild.
The most I know about bullfighting is from Ferdinand, the book.
well, now you can say the Undefeated.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it talks about the banderos and the picadores, and it talks about the matador who wants to go out there and be really fancy and impress all the ladies with flowers in their hair. And when Ferdinand won't fight, the picadores are mad, and the banderos are mad, and the picadores are madder, and the matador is so mad that he cries because he can't show off with his fancy cape and
fancy
clothes.
Moves.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then we get into the third act, the third tercio here, and I really enjoyed, the juxtaposition between everything Manuel was doing in the ring, and the danger and the excitement of what he's doing. So now in the third act, his job is to kind of goad the bull into the now tired bull, which has been stabbed dozens of times by the picadors and the banderillos. He's now goading the bull to charge him, right? So basically, the bull is worn down and he's watching. And I thought it was just fascinating. He's watching his hooves to see, like, is he standing firm or is he like looking like he's ready to charge, right? So he's timing it. And so now Manuel's job is to basically do these fancy maneuvers to let the bull go by him, and he's going to do flourishes and whatnot to avoid the bull and to thrill the crowd. And then finally at the very end, he's going to try to stab the bull between the shoulders and kill it. So, and then I guess they cut up the bull and give the meat to the poor because he said something about the people are going to eat well tonight. Unless the crowd loved the bull, and then it would be like retired and sent out to pasture. So if the bull did a really great job. So I love the juxtaposition between what's happening there, right? The excitement of that, and then the utter boredom of the bullfight critic.
Oh, I know.
Who's just like, I'm covering the late night beat. I got to get out of here. I got somewhere to be. What is going on? All right, I'm going to write this up. And the utter boredom of what he's seeing and thinking, and then the notes he takes, and then eventually stops taking because he's like, whatever, I'm just going to write whatever. Because nobody's going to read this. Nobody cares about these nocturnals and these guys that are fighting. Anyway, I thought that was great.
I thought it was also interesting that he's like keeping up, and he's writing about Zorito and the other stuff. And then when it comes to Manuel, when he walked across the arena toward where up the dark boxes the president must be in the front row seats at the substitute bullfight critic, took a long drink of warm champagne, and he decided to stop writing.
Yeah.
So it's like at the point where it's like the main event of the main event, that's when he gets the most bored.
Right.
And he's like, I'm not even going to write this up.
Yeah.
And it goes to show like how uninteresting Manuel has become.
Right.
Or his role in the night, like you said, the night fight is not the interesting one. He just can't even tell if the president is there, which I have a feeling he's not there.
Yeah, it's dark. You can't tell anyway.
But he's been praised by, I think it's Fuentes. They kept calling him the gypsy.
Right.
And he's like, he's really good.
Right.
And Zorito's like, no, he's not. He's like, he's not. Basically, like, just wait. Something's going to go wrong.
Right.
I don't know what it is about Manuel or what happened in the past that you just know it's really good up until a point.
Right.
And then something happens.
He's at least known because these younger kids are like, you're right, wanting to see him and learn. And like, oh, this is Manuel, right? This is Manuel Garcia. So anyway, we don't have to go through the fight, but basically Manuel does the fight. He has some sword issues, like the sword is bending, he's hitting bone, he's not getting it in. And so finally he does at the end, and I mean, there's a point where the crowd is so bored, like they throw things at him.
Yeah.
They're throwing their cushions and, snowballs at Santa, whatever else you want to throw in there. And
I was like, is this in Philadelphia?
Right, exactly. He trips on one of the cushions. Anyway, and I love how he throws the cushion back, back into the crowd. But finally he gets the sword in, and they finish the bull, and like the crowd, like I think the critic had left by that point, I think, even right, or the president had, like, we don't know if the president was there.
But there's this point where Manuel is going good, or at least from our perspective. We see him doing all these good things and nobody appreciates it. And all of a sudden it says there was a shock. And he was almost trampled. and he's under the bull. The bull's thrown
Right.
him up. He's under the bull, and they come out and they manage to get the bull away from him and off of him. And he says like the bull, everything goes dark as the bull's body like blocks the light and passes over him, and he's
Right.
not even stepped on. And he like gets up and Cerrito's like, wipe the blood off your face, get back out there.
Right.
And then it says, again, there was a shock, and he felt himself being borne back in a rush. And then this time, there was no chance of kicking. The bull was on top of him. I'm just like,
Yeah. It was crazy.
he's horribly. He does win.
He does, but he
He's
doesn't.
terribly injured.
He's injured. He's yeah, right. He's horribly injured, and the story ends with him up in the clinic or wherever in the infirmary of the bullfighting ring, and there's doctors there, and Zorito and Ratana are there, and Zorito's like, I'll take care of it. I'll talk to him, and Ratana doesn't stick around, and he actually. There's a point where Manuel can't hear. He doesn't know what's being said. He's sort of blacking out. And Zorito's got some scissors, and he's going to cut the coleta. And Manuel's like, don't do it, man. Don't do it. And finally, Zorito's like, all right, fine. I won't do it.
Just kidding.
Just kidding, man.
Just a prank, man.
Yeah.
I don't think it was just a prank.
No, he was going to do it. But it's so heartbreaking at the end where he's like, I was going good, wasn't I? It was just bad luck, man. It was just bad luck. He's like, no. You're right. You were going good, man. You were going good. And then they put him under. Like, oh.
I thought the first time I read it, and it literally wasn't the first time, but it'd been so long ago that I just was like, oh yeah, I've read this bullfight story. But I thought he died.
That's what I was
And then I'm
expecting.
like, wait, he's not dead, and he won. Like he got the bull, and he did some impressive things, and yet,
Doesn't matter.
I feel like Zorito's gonna cut it off while he's asleep. I guess you can't. Did you see anything about the Coletta? Like, are you not allowed to fight, or you have to have one, or?
I mean, I guess it's just yeah, I don't know. I didn't look specifically, but I guess that's the mark of a bullfighter. Like, if you don't have it, you can't. You're not a fighter. I don't know.
Your
At least back
career
then.
is
I don't know
over.
about now. But yeah.
I feel like we could talk about this story for an entire
Oh yeah,
episode. And I
this
mean,
was
we
a good one.
basically.
This was a good one. Anyway, it was a long one. But we'll have, yeah, I mean, I'm sure the wrap will be talking about a lot of these things. But I thought it was an excellent story. It was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. But we have to move on because we've talked for a while on this one. And we still have three
Yeah.
more much shorter stories to get to.
But not less deep, I don't think.
No.
But shorter.
But I'll be curious, your deeper reading on these. So next we have In Another Country. So this one, so the first one was set in Spain. This one is set in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't look up. What are we talking, World War One? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
In Milan.
Yeah. And so we've got some guys in Italy. One of them, the sort of I guess the main character is an American, right? Because he doesn't speak Italian great. And he's at a hospital. So this is set in a hospital where this guy, he's been injured in the war, and he's got something with his knee. And so the doctors are trying these new machines, these new rehabilitation machines. And so they're hooking him up to this thing that's going to get his knee to work again. Like, it's going to force his knee to move, basically. And he sits next to this Italian major who's got a withered hand. He's been injured in some way as well. And they hook him up to a machine that is like palpitating his hand and
So
getting
just
it
flopping it around.
flopping it around, yeah. Like they're gonna make it grow or something. Like, I don't know exactly what injuries these guys have are. It's a little weird.
And
Anyway.
there's three boys. One who was a lawyer, one who was a painter, and one who wants to be a soldier, but he's super young and got hurt his very first day.
Right. And so it just talks about kind of, man, this is like stranger in a strange land, right? Like, this guy he doesn't belong to any of this. And
they've all gotten medals of valor
right,
in
like
some
multiple
way.
times.
And it's funny because he's got one.
He's got one.
And they're like, "Oh, what did you get a medal for?" And he's basically, turns out, because I'm wounded, but I'm an American, and it's like a fraternity, like, "Oh, you
Right.
friend of the Italian military, you got hurt here." That's how I took it. And this is
Yeah.
like your complimentary participation wounded medal
Kind of.
or
Yeah, that's how I
something.
took it. Because, I don't know if he, did
He says,
anything wild to get injured. He's just got injured, right? He
yeah,
survived, basically. Like, everybody else died, and he survived.
he said, basically everyone gets wounded by accident. And so these other guys that he's looking at, he's like, I wish I had done what they did to deserve their medals. I didn't.
Right.
Didn't do anything like whatever it was they did. And we don't know what any of them did. Um, but he's not ashamed of his medal, but he doesn't think he actually deserved it in the same
Right.
way.
We all knew that it was being wounded, and after all, was really an accident. Sometimes I would imagine myself having done all the things they had done to get their medals. But walking at home at night through the empty streets, I knew that I would never have done such things, and I was very much afraid to die. It reminds me a little bit of when I was in Iraq in 2003. We had a guy, he was a cook, and he was under investigation for something. I don't know the whole story, but he was not allowed to carry a weapon.
Hmm.
And one day we had these wooden porta potties, and I think like the one next to him or something got hit by a mortar round, and he ended up like wood splinters like in his arm or something. He ended up getting a Purple Heart for that.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah,
Good
so
on you, mate.
completely accidental. He didn't do anything brave, or you think of a wounded soldier. Oh, you got a Purple Heart in combat. Yeah, I was wounded in combat. No, the guy was just taking a dump, and they blew up the one next to him, and he got some wood shrapnel in his arm, and he got a Purple Heart for it. So
I feel like
that's what I was thinking of when I'm thinking of this American guy, this American captain that was wounded in Italy. He's like, I didn't really do anything. I got wounded, and I'm an American, so they gave me this medal.
whenever I read novels or poetry about like war and soldiers, like that's the one thing that feels like it back in the day, like in this time, British poets, World War I, were writing about like the valor and the honor and fighting for the homeland and to have your blood spilled upon England's ground. And it's just wonderful. And now I feel like anytime I read a novel or read poetry, people are like, super boring, not a lot happening till it does. And then also, it's not, there's zero glory. And it's basically like, I got a Purple Heart because I got hit with wood from the shitter.
Right. Exactly. Well, I think
That's what,
World War One and World War Two, Britain was facing like an existential threat, whereas modern wars were like, yeah, we went and did this. I don't really know why. Did we have to? Sure. I don't
I
know.
hate it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Anyway, so then we the story kind of ends. So him and a major are talking, and he wants to go back to the U.S. Oh, do we get into the he was ostracized.
Ostracization? Yeah, he was
Ostracization.
ostracized.
So he didn't really fit in with these guys because A, he's not Italian, and B, he didn't do anything brave. And it's like they all know that he didn't do anything brave. And so like even when they go out at night, like they kind of break off and leave him alone.
Yeah.
He ends up by himself a lot.
The way Hemingway describes it was incredible. The hawk analogy, he was like, they were hawks,
Right.
and they knew that they were hawks, and they knew that I was not a hawk, although I
Right.
look like a hawk to someone who has never hunted.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, whoa. It was just such a cool, I don't know.
Yeah. And then it says, he stayed good friends with the boy who had been wounded his first day, because he would never know how he would have turned out, so he would never be accepted either. And I liked him because I thought perhaps he would not have turned out to be a hawk either. So, yeah.
so good.
It's very, very good.
Writing is so good.
So then this thing ends when they're talking. Him and the major are talking, and the American says, I'm gonna go back home after this. And he says, "Are you married?" He says, "No, but I want to get married." He says, "Don't. A man should not get married." And why? He says, "Because you will lose everything, and you should not ever put yourself in a place to lose everything." And then we find out that his wife has just died. And
He says you shouldn't get married, and then he changes it to you cannot. And you cannot put yourself in a place to lose that.
right.
And
I mean,
his
he's
wife
already
just died.
lost. So it said they didn't get married until his wound was bad enough that he was definitely not going to go back to the front. Like he was
Yeah.
definitely done with fighting. So now he's like, okay, I'm not going to lose my life. I'm not going to end up widowing her. Like now we can get married. And then they do, and then she dies.
She gets pneumonia and dies in 3 days.
Right. Yeah, it's a little downer at the end here.
Well, I think it's so first of all, it's so sad. But also the very beginning of the story, the doctor comes out and he's like, "Hey,
Right.
how you doing?" And he's like, "Did you like any sports back in America?" And he's like, "Yeah, I liked football." He's like, "You're gonna be playing football again like a champ because of
Yeah.
this machine." And he talks about how like the machine, like his leg is nothing after the knee, and the machine turns his leg, but even it can't make the knee work, and it makes this ka-chunking sound and
Right.
kind of gets caught up when it tries to make his leg turn. And the doctor's just like, "You're gonna be good as
It's
new,
gonna be
you'll be a
great.
champ."
Yeah.
And then
Oh
the
man.
major, whose hand is flopping around, he brings him out all these pictures to show him, "Look at these people who fully recovered."
Right.
And that contrasted with, you can't control any of this. You tried to be careful that you wouldn't get hurt and you wouldn't leave your wife, and okay, now it's safe, now we can have our life, now the universe will be okay to us, and you get pneumonia and you die, and there's no machine that's going to bring back your leg, there is no machine that's going to bring back your hand. And
Right.
the doctor like pastes the pictures on the hand machine, but the major won't even look at them,
Yeah.
because
Nothing's bringing
you
his
are
wife back.
nothing, and nothing is going to fix what happened to these men in World War One and World War Two and any war. But I think now, back then, you had to, especially the British, from what I've read, you had to suck it up,
Oh yeah.
like
Yeah.
hardcore, stuff it down, and if you can't, hide away from society, get out of here, like Septimus throwing himself out of the window in Mrs. Dalloway because he's suffering, and they're just like, "Go, you just need to rest." That was the cure. Just go lay down. Don't do any work. Don't talk to anyone. Don't read. Don't write. You just need to
Uh,
go sleep
that's why the 1950s
forever.
were so rough in America. Or part of the reason.
Yeah. Oh, and
So
then we're
much
all gonna go
domestic
have
violence.
kids.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wrote down like what was I feeling at the end of this story? Like, was it the unfairness of it all that he waited and she dies in 3 days? Is it the unexpectedness? And like this story just had me fully in the like the universe, the world doesn't care. And that's kind of like anthropomorphizing the universe into having
Right.
feelings, but like pneumonia can kill people, and it did kill her.
Right.
And there's nothing you could, the machine is not going to repair what's lost. You
Right.
can't, it's just so, I don't know. And like Manolo, you can't recover the potential you once had. You're not going to be that bullfighter that you think, no matter how great you're going, that's not, it's just not going to happen for you.
Getting old
Whether they
sucks.
cut whether they cut your pigtail off or not,
Right.
it's not going to happen for you. I don't know if that's what I mean, Hemingway has been characterized as like man fighting against nature, man
Hmm.
fighting against the universe, and it's almost impossible. And you win a little bit. I feel like you win a little bit.
Yeah,
Like Manolo did win.
he did.
The Major did survive.
He did.
He's got
But they're
his medals.
both in bad shape at the end of the
Yeah.
stories.
The same as it is true of the old man in the sea. Like he fights against the sea, nature, and the sharks and all of it, and he comes back. But like, I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff. All right, but that brings us to the one you said you read before,
yeah.
the hills like white elephants, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't get this one,
You
so
didn't get it?
I didn't get it. So you can sum it up as a guy and a girl are hanging out at a train station, and they have a couple beers, and then they go to get on the train, and all the while they're talking vaguely about doing something. And do you want to do it? Do you not want to do it? I won't do it if you don't want to do it. You know, um, I don't know. Um,
Do you know what they're talking about?
I don't. An operation to let the air in.
It's an abortion.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, he's trying to. I, I don't know if he's trying to convince her. It's all this subtext of just let the air in. It's perfectly simple. It'll be all right. And she's like, and then you'll like it when I say hills are like white elephants. He's like, I love it now, and I'll love it then. I've known plenty of people who've done this. And she's like, and they're all perfectly happy.
Yeah,
He's like, yeah, everything
okay.
goes back to normal. That's what they're talking about.
So I don't. Yeah, all right. So we have to work through this one. So I don't get it because it's not like they're breaking up, right?
I mean, not yet.
You think that's the subtext? Like he's going to if she doesn't do it?
I think everything's I think that everything is different now, and it will again, it'll never go
It'll never be the
back.
same.
Yeah. Because not because she will or she won't and he wants her or he doesn't want her to, because you don't really know, I think, how either of them feel. Although I feel like you know that he wants her to.
Right.
And I think she's conflicted. I think the for me reading it this time at this stage in my life, I think for me it's really that they do not agree. Period.
Right.
They and if they did, there would be no story. There would be no story. Uh, but I've been in that place where I want someone to want something also, and I'm trying to convince them, but I'll also not pressure them.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I don't want you to unless you want to go. If you don't want to go, I don't want you to go. But I really want you to go, and I want you
Right.
to want to go, and I want you
Right.
to enjoy yourself and not just say yes because I want you to. And it's just that I want you to want the exact same thing that I want in the exact same way that I want it, and they just don't.
Right.
They don't. I mean, if she keeps drinking beers, I don't think she'll have to worry about
Yeah,
it.
exactly. I know she's pounding down the
But
beers pretty good here,
an
so
absinthe.
doesn't matter, right? Um,
But the conversation is just so filled with, even from the beginning, this unsaid. I just feel this tension um,
oh yeah, yeah,
the whole way through. And she says, like, he's like, do you want to get a drink? And she's like, that's all we do, isn't it? Look at things and try new drinks. It's like, are you mad at me?
yeah. We need to move on with our lives here and progress a little. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that
And
makes a little more sense then to me. I was not getting it at first. I was just like, all right, well they're not agreeing, and then they're gonna take the train. I don't know.
neither of them are able to say what they want.
Right. They both dance around it.
Yeah. And I don't know what she wants, honestly. Although I think her comment, like, this is all we do, like everything is thrown into a different, hence the name. Things look different to her now. The
Yeah.
hills look like white elephants.
She
Like
wants something different out
maybe,
of life.
yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, but if you just do this, it'll be fine after. We'll just go back to the way things were.
Right.
And she's basically saying, like, no, we won't. And I love the way it ends. It basically ends with like, I'm fine. Why wouldn't I be fine?
Yeah. I'm good.
Things are great.
It's great. We're good.
I wrote down, it's all changed. They want, wait, what did I write? They want the other one to be convinced genuinely, and they want each other to want the same thing, but it's over either way. And I don't, I think that's a beautiful sentiment that you want the other person to genuinely want the thing.
Right.
At least I hope that's what's happening.
It seems.
I feel
I
like
would say it seems to be. Yeah.
I feel like he really wants her to be like, yeah, I just want our lives to stay the same. Let's just let the air in and it'll be fine. And she
Right.
wants him to be like, our lives maybe they could be different. At least entertain it.
Right. And he doesn't want to.
And maybe it's just my own womanly perspective thinking she's not decided yet. But she's at least entertaining it, and he seems like he's just not.
Right.
I don't know what he's worried about, though.
Well, I mean, he's an American and she's
She's
Spanish,
not.
so I mean,
Is she Spanish?
yeah, because she can communicate with the waitress. There's a point where he's like, where the waitress comes in and he's like, "What did she say?" And she said, "Oh, the train will be here in 5 minutes." So
Oh.
she's, I think she's a local and he's an American. And so I don't know if he's thinking about what the family's going to say when he gets home. I mean, this is 1927, so you're gonna bring some
And she's
foreign
like,
girl home.
yeah. She says it isn't ours anymore, the world. When he's like,
Right.
and we'll just keep traveling and we'll do it. She's like, no,
No, we
it
can't
isn't
anymore.
ours anymore.
Right. She's got other
Just
considerations
period, full
now.
stop, no matter the
Right.
decision.
Right.
When I first read this in high school,
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
college, and I too was like, what are they talking about? And I was like, I think I know, but no, they wouldn't talk about that. So that one's often anthologized.
Okay. Yeah.
Or
Again,
maybe go back and read it differently.
but it's about a 5 minute read, so you can definitely go back and read it again with new eyes. And I think I shall. So that brings us to our final story of this section, The Killers. This one's, I think, much more straightforward. And it revolves around a lunch counter and a couple of guys that work there. And these two fellas come in and I mean, you can immediately tell just by the way they're talking. I mean, they talk like stereotypical mafia guys. They're like, yeah, what do you? I got a smart guy here, bright
Hey,
boy,
bright
ain't you?
boy.
Sure, yeah. What's your name, boy? All right, another bright boy. Ain't he a bright boy? Like it's just so stereotypical the way the mobsters talk. Like you immediately know, okay, these guys are up to no good, right? So basically, you got these two guys, Al and
Max and
Max.
Al.
Yeah, who come into the bar where George and Nick are working.
I think
Which I don't
Nick's
know if
just
you
a
remember. There was
patron.
you remember there was a chicken place in Chambersburg called George and Nick's. Do you remember that? No. Had the big fiberglass chicken out front. I don't know. It was called George and Nick's. I thought that was fun. Anyway, the George and
I
Nick
thought
were
Nick
running
was
this
just a
lunch
patron
counter.
hanging out.
No, he was behind the bar, wasn't he? Wasn't
No,
Nick
George
behind the
is
bar?
behind the bar, isn't he?
I thought he was. I thought they both worked there. Anyway.
Either way.
Yeah, because they both know old Ole Anderson. So these two guys, Al and Max, are there, and we go through a little roundabout of them, wanting to get some food, but it's not 6 yet. They want dinner food. It's only 5, and anyway, eventually we get to the point.
Sandwiches.
Yeah, and they're like, they don't want to talk about what they're doing, and so finally they start to like, kind of get tough with, first they're real kind of cordial, but then they start to like
Cordial in
mouth
a
off
mob
to the
kinda
guys
way.
that work there. Yeah, they start playing the mob part, and finally George and Nick kind of get out of them that what do you what are you doing here? And he says, well, I'm going to tell you. So Max says, you guys know a big Swede named Ole Anderson? He's like, yeah, well, we're going to kill him. So
I love that you figured out his name is Ole because I was just calling him Ole Anderson.
Ole Anderson.
Ole Anderson.
Good old Anderson, yeah. So so they're going to kill this guy. And they got a couple of shotguns, and they tie up Nick and the cook, and they leave him in the back. And George is there to kind of run interference for any regulars who come in. He tells them, cook's sick, or come back in a bit.
Sam went out. Sam the cook, yeah.
Yeah, he makes a sandwich for a guy to go. He's like, just to get him out of there. Well, they sit through all this, and Ole doesn't show up. Mm-mm. So the killers are like, all right, fine, we're out of here then. You guys got lucky today.
Yeah, that part was tense because it was like,
what are they going to do? Yeah.
You're just going to let them go?
Right, because that's what they said. They were like, should we kill these guys too? Or, I thought maybe they were going to because they spilled the whole plan to these dudes.
It's pretty intense to come into a lunch counter with sawed-off shotguns.
Right.
Like, you were not planning for an inconspicuous event either way.
There was going to be noise and blood everywhere, right? So then at the end, George and Nick talk about it, and Nick says, "Hey, should we tell him?" And he's like, "I don't think we should get involved. You do what you want to do, kind of thing." No. George says go to see him. Sam doesn't want to get involved. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's. I could just see like a Chappelle Show skit where like these two white guys are like, "Well, let's go tell him," and Chappelle's like, "Nah, man, don't get involved.
Do this." Yeah.
Don't get involved.
Guys are
They're like,
crazy.
I'm gonna get involved. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go tell him.
So Nick decides I'm gonna go tell him. So he goes up to the boarding house where Ole's staying, and he's been in his room all day. He knows what's coming, and he just tells him, "Hey man, these guys are coming to get you." And he's like, "Yeah, I know. It's all right." And he's like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" He's like, "Nothing I can do. I can't fix it. I got mixed up in some bad stuff. So I'm gonna have to go out at some point." And he's like, "Okay, all right, well, I'll see you." And then that's it. And Nick goes back to the thing, and he's like, well, what's gonna happen? Well, I don't know. What's he gonna do about it? Well, nothing. And George says, all right, well, don't think about it too much. That's all you can do.
As soon as he leaves his room, he's gonna get killed.
He's gonna die. Yeah. So
and he's just laying in his bed like, I haven't decided if I should go out yet.
And as soon as he does, he's done.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nothing's gonna fix it.
No.
No machine is gonna save you.
Exactly.
This is another. I mean, again, this is another one of the like. I think these stories are amazing because they're about so much and yet not a whole lot is happening. This is not a Hollywood mafia movie where Ole decides to like try to run and for years he's safe, but then they find him and 20 years later after he's got kids, they still find him,
still get you.
There's no shootout. The killers let the people go. There is no, Quentin Tarantino spray
right.
on the back of the wall. And this is almost worse because now I'm just like laying on the bed as Ole, like, should I go out yet? Like, does it become suicide at that point? What do you do?
I mean, maybe he can run. I mean, but is there anywhere where he can escape? I mean, he's pretty much done.
He doesn't want to escape.
Right. He can't because there's nothing that'll fix it. There's nothing.
Yeah.
The police won't help. Nothing he can do.
And there's nothing Manolo can do. He's an aging fighter. No one's interested in him. He keeps getting hurt.
Right.
There's nothing the American and the girl, Jig, what he calls her, there's nothing they can do. The split in their relationship has happened. No matter what they decide. There's nothing the soldiers can do. Your life is no longer the way you thought it was going to be.
Right. Ugh, these are all depressing.
sometimes I find comfort. We've talked about this before with me. Sometimes I find comfort in that because you can spend so much of your life trying to control and plan and it doesn't turn out and then you feel really disappointed. I feel really disappointed that I can't control the way my kids will react or the way the day is going to go, or I can't go back in time and remake a decision that I thought was a good one, that I really thought through. Like when I was younger, I thought I'm going to do or not do, like with dance, I'm not going to audition for X because I know I won't get it. And here are the logical reasons.
Right.
I'm not 5'6", and I haven't had classical ballet training for X amount of time, and I'm not going to get it. And I'm making this decision on purpose, logically, and therefore I will not regret this decision. And here I am, almost 40, like, oh man,
You should have done, yeah.
I should have at least tried.
Right.
But I at the time, I thought I was consciously thinking, will you regret this? No, nope. That's not how regret works.
Right.
So you can't control that. So I find a little bit of comfort in the fact that the universe chooses for you. And that's even like as if there's a choice, like someone's picking it out of a hat. Like things, you only have so much control. I don't know.
And you can control how you feel about your choices, I suppose. That's the comforting thing. Whether or not to have a regret, that's kind of on you, whether you regret something or not. I mean...
Yeah. I don't know if I feel regret. I feel like if I could talk to myself years ago, I'd be like, just try.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. I think those are decisions we all could change or do something different, but I think living with the consequences and figuring out what you want to do going forward, that's maturity and growth, right?
Yeah. And then you try to convince someone else not to do what you did, and they're like, nah, I'm just going to do the same thing
anyway.
The same mistake over and over. And
everybody's got to make their own choices. Yeah.
That's called life.
Exactly.
These are good stories. I'm excited to read the rest.
They really are. Yeah, I'm curious to get into it too. So that brings us to our next episode. So for our next episode, we're going to read up through the story called 10 Indians. And I think we've got, I did a little, when I was figuring out what we're reading each week, a little bit of research. We have a multi-part story about a journey, basically, that Hemingway took. Is one of the ones we'll have in there. I think it'll be some good stuff. I'm looking forward to reading it and getting into it. So
good. I'm really glad because I was kind of worried about picking this book because
oh, really? Why?
You didn't really read them. Do you read short stories?
I mean, I don't not read them. I mean, it's not like I don't have like volumes of short stories waiting for me. I mean, that I'm turning down.
I don't know. I was nervous. I was like, what if he doesn't like it? I think because I really like Hemingway and people, I don't know. I feel like
I don't have much, like I said, I don't have much experience. I know that I read Old Man of the Sea back in high school, but that's all I could tell you about it. So, or I suppose
there's a YA novel called The Young Man in the Sea now.
Oh, well, there you go.
That's obviously not by Hemingway, but it's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, I have to check it out.
Right.
Well, that pretty much wraps up this week's episode. I think this is a pretty long one, I think. This is one of our longer, just over an hour, one of our longer discussion episodes. But if you like what we're doing, folks, here at Classic You Slept Through, we've been doing it for a while now. So why don't you tell some friends about us? Get some more folks to listen. You start your own mini book club, right? You read along with us, get friends to read along, and you could have great discussions. As you're having those great discussions, hit us up. Send us an email, cystpod@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Instagram, Facebook. I guess you can Mastodon. I don't know. Nobody uses it. It's there, but it's there. Anyway, you can find us there.
It doesn't have to be on a current episode. Hit us up about old episodes.
Hit us up about anything, right? We love hearing from you guys.
Whichever episode you're on.
Right. And the great thing about these is they're books, right? You don't have to listen to them in order. We don't have lore that we're building. Just listen to an old book if you want to listen to an old book. Go ahead. It's fine. These are timeless. These are public domain classics from 100 years ago. They're fantastic. What else? I was gonna say. Oh, we also, follow us on Instagram because sometimes we do live reads. I did a live read of the Undefeated the other week. It was kind of fun. So you can hop on there as we're looking for better streaming platforms. You can hit us up, follow us on YouTube, like and subscribe our YouTube channel, YouTube at CYST Pod. We'll be starting live streaming on there as well. So hit that notification bell so you know when we go live on live reads, and sometimes these discussion episodes too we'll be doing live up on YouTube. So those are good. And of course, all of our episodes are archived on there, as well as some of the crazy artwork that we come up for the reading. I love AI art, and I'm excited because Bing just upgraded the DALL-E version they're using. So I'm hoping we're going to get some better art coming up on some of these next episodes. All right, so until next time, folks, this has been Classics You Slept Through. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving break, and let us know what y'all did. How was the food? Any fun book discussions around the Thanksgiving table?
Peace.